Hey guys, it's Kevin, my review for Herself. What Herself is essentially about is we center on the character of Sandra, and she has been in this very abusive relationship for about a couple years now, and it's been getting really bad. She's really been struggling to get out of it, and basically she decides that she's just had enough, so she wants to upend her entire family to try to find a new home. Unfortunately, though, the housing system is refusing to give her one, so basically she decides that she's going to take matters into her own hands and build her own home with a friendly community. However, things start to go sideways when, as she's rediscovering herself, her ex-husband seems to appear and sues her for custody of the children. So now Sandra has to do what she can to try to rebuild her life, but also take the ownership that she really needs to and hopefully turn things around. So Herself, overall, I was definitely excited for this film. I didn't really know a lot of what it was going into it, but, you know, it seemed like one of those films that could be very effective if handled well. It definitely seemed like a film that could definitely be one to be on the lookout for, you know, and not an Oscar film or anything like that, but especially in January, it seemed like a film that I could definitely really enjoy. So I was definitely really looking forward to this one, and it very much delivered. Herself, I think, is a really well done film that goes about this premise in a much different way than you really would expect it to, and I think that's one of the reasons why it is really as good as it is. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast, and easily I think that's one of the best elements of this entire film, especially when it comes to our main lead here, Clare Dunne, who just carries, I think, this entire film together so nicely. She really understands the character of Sandra so well. Someone who, she's trying to be the best possible mother that she can, but she also has gone through a very traumatic situation in her life. I mean, she's been in a very abusive relationship, and she frequently will have PTSD. She frequently will harken back to it. There's a lot of things that really do trigger her, but she really is trying to stay positive. She's trying to keep her head above water in that way, and I think Dunn just handled that so well when it comes to this film. You really find yourself sympathizing with Sandra throughout it. You understand how determined she is to try to turn things around, to try to give her kids the life that she thinks she really does deserve, and it's one of the most likable performances that I've seen in quite a while, and I think Dunn just did such a good job when it comes to this film. I really think she just, the whole thing, like I said, she just held it together so nicely, and I was very impressed by her performance throughout this entire thing. I think the film is worth watching alone just to see her performance here, because she really killed it in this film. But the rest of the cast also, I think, does a really strong job. Harriet Walter, I really did enjoy here as sort of this mentor sort of figure towards Sandra as Peggy. I thought that she definitely was really well done here. Conleth Hill is good for what he has. And also, I will say Lloyd Anderson, very difficult role because he is playing the abusive husband in question, but he plays it really well. He never hams it up. He never tries to go too over the top. It just feels like this is a very damaged and very controlling guy, and he handles it very well here. It felt very real in that sense, and I was very impressed by his performance. I think everyone acting-wise did a really strong job here. And now let's get to the directing and the writing, because that is the other thing I think that really works well with this film. Phyllida Lloyd's directing, it's not really what you expect. Yes, this film can be very sad. Yes, this film definitely has its moments where I think it is going to affect you in a pretty big way. It can be pretty hard to watch, but Lloyd is not interested in dwelling on the trauma and the emotional trauma that Sandra is going through. Her focus is way more on how Sandra is going to overcome this situation, and she does a really good job with the directing here because, again, while the film can be very emotional, it never feels melodramatic. This feels like a very personal and very meaningful film that I think for people who have been in this situation before, it's actually going to be very uplifting for them. The film has a very liberating sense throughout the entire thing, and I think Lloyd just did a really good job at helming this entire film. It really felt like she understood you know, what she was doing, and I really enjoyed her directing throughout this film. But the writing as well, I think, is really well done when it comes to this movie, and part of that is because it is, written by one of the writers is Dunne herself, who I believe went through a very similar situation to what Sandra did in this movie. And again, it really does add, I think, to the it really does add to the emotional heft of this film, because the way that Sandra is presented, again, it feels very real in that way. There are some moments in this film that are hard to watch, especially the way the movie opens. I mean, it's a very eerily real portrayal of what women and sometimes men have to go through in abusive relationships, and how she's trying to do what she can to be that mother, but she really can't be. And, she wants to make up for that. She wants to be able to be a good mother to her kids. She wants to be able to just be able to move on from this, to have a better life in that way. You can see how annoyed she is at what's going on, while she's also so terrified of what's really going to happen. She's trying to keep an open mind in that way. And I think that's something that's really well done with this film, is that the film has a far more positive attitude than you really would. Everyone's telling Sandra, like, this is not a good idea, what are you doing? But she doesn't care. She wants to continue, trying to build this home, even if she doesn't really know what she's doing. And that's something I think that's really well done in this film, is that throughout a good portion of it, Sandra doesn't really know what she's doing here. She doesn't really know how to navigate this entire thing, and that's something that she's often very... she's often very confused about, is how am I supposed to go about this? How is this all really going to work? She doesn't really care about the practicalities of it all. She just wants to make sure that it actually does happen. And I think that's one of the things that really does add to this film. I think that's something that's going to be very relatable. She doesn't really care how it happens. She just kind of cares that it does. Whatever she can do to have some form of normalcy, I think is really well done. And again, it's something that I really did appreciate. I was not expecting this film to be as hopeful as it really was, but I think that's one of the things that really makes this film stick out. It's not trying to focus on the emotion. It's there for sure. I mean, one of the subplots of the movie is that he comes back into her life and tries to get custody of her kids, but she tries to not let that be a setback. She tries to not let that get in the way. Her focus is on repairing her life. Her focus is on giving her kids the best possible, parenting that she really can in that way. And I think that's what really adds to this film. I think the screenplay here, it's just very well done. Again, the way the film dives into her PTSD, how she will recall painful memories, it's really well handled. It feels very authentic. There are many moments of this film that could get very melodramatic if they wanted to, and it really doesn't. The film just feels very raw and honest, and I just think the writing is very well done here. Very strong screenplay for sure, and the cinematography in this film I think is also really well done. I really like the look and the feel of this movie. It just, again, it feels like this is what would happen in this situation. I think there are a lot of really good shots in this film, and I really enjoyed the cinematography in this film. The score as well is really well done here. It's never too overbearing. It's just the right amount, and I think it definitely does work for this film. And the editing, I think this film is very well edited. I was pretty much into it the entire time. There really wasn't a point where the film was losing me, and I thought overall the film was very well edited in that way. In terms of flaws when it comes to herself, I don't really have a ton, but there are a couple things that do bring it down. I will say the first 20-ish minutes of the movie I did feel was a little bit rushed. I would have liked to spend a little bit more time seeing her in this situation and her trying to get out of it. I understand, again, the film didn't want to focus too much on that, but I do think that they could have spent a little bit more time there. Also, aside from Sandra, none of the other characters in this movie really made a huge impact on me. While I enjoyed, say, like, the character of Peggy, I didn't really find myself all that attached to her. I didn't find her to be that interesting of a character, mainly because the film just doesn't dive all that deep into her. They don't do a lot with her in this film. She very much is just someone that Sandra will go to when she needs to talk to someone, and I just need a little bit more from her. Conleth Hill's character especially, there's really nothing to him throughout this entire movie. He's just kind of here. He's this person that, you know, she tries to live with, and then it doesn't really work out, and I just didn't really feel like there was enough to his character, so I just felt the other characters were a little bit underwritten, and perhaps if they would have spent a little bit more time on them, maybe the film would be just that much more effective overall. But again, it doesn't really detract from how much I did enjoy herself. This is a film that we have seen done before, but it's presented in a very uplifting and very, like I said, liberating manner for a lot of people. It's a film that isn't concerned about focusing on the emotional trauma. It wants to focus on how you overcome it. It wants to focus on repairing, and I think that's something that a lot of people are going to relate to. It's got a great performance from Clare Dunne, who really just carries this entire movie very nicely. It's got some really good moments overall, and I think overall it's definitely going to affect a lot of people for sure. I very much enjoyed Herself, and I am going to give it a B. Overall, guys, my review of Herself. Let me know what you guys saw this movie, all the true thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.